What can I do to shrink my pores? As a dermatologist, I get this question all the time, so here's exactly what I tell my patients. I'm Dr. Sam Ellis, and I'm a board-certified dermatologist in Northern California, and I'm here to help you understand your skin and find products that work for you. So if you like that type of content, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and give the video a thumbs up. The longer I've been a dermatologist and have treated patients, the more I realize that pretty much everyone is bothered by their pores. And even though they are a normal anatomical structure on your skin, which we will get into, I can completely understand wanting them to appear more refined or less prominent. So today I'm going to give you my tips, tricks, and product recommendations to make your pores appear less visible. When it comes to human skin, we actually have multiple types of pores. A pore is essentially an opening that connects deeper layers of your skin to the surface. You have sweat pores that you sweat out of, but you can't really see those. The pores that people are usually bothered by, or the ones that people complain about, are actually very tiny hair follicles or openings for your hair growth in the skin. And each of these pores, aside from containing a really little hair, also has an oil gland attached to it. That oil gland produces sebum, and that sebum travels up through the pore in the skin to be released on your skin surface. And when people say, ooh, I have oily skin, that essentially means that the sebaceous gland or the oil gland that is attached to each of those little hair follicles is putting out a high amount of oil. Now, the size of your pores and what they look like is partially in your control and partially not in your control. By far and away, the biggest determinant of the size of your pores is your genetics. Some people are prone to having larger pores and some people are not. And people who tend to have oily skin also tend to have larger appearing pores because that oil gland is pushing out more oil through the skin surface. And sometimes the oil gland itself that is attached to that pore is enlarged, which makes the pore appear larger as well. Our skin starts to produce more oil as we go through puberty, and that's also why pores are not something you see little kids talking about, or when you look at a baby's face, you can't see their pores because their oil production is also much less. So it's not just that people become self-conscious as they become a teenager, the size of their pores actually is getting bigger at that point. Now, because a pore is essentially a hole in the skin surface, that pore can become clogged with debris like dead skin cells and oil, and that over time can stretch out the size of a pore. Also, as your skin ages and as it becomes damaged by things like UV radiation, so sunlight, that skin can lose its integrity or its structure, and the pore can stretch out and become more prone to clogging. And so sometimes people get in this vicious cycle where the skin is damaged, it becomes prone to clogging, it stretches out the pore, and then that larger pore is more easily clogged and it goes around and around and around. Now, just because your pore size is somewhat genetically predetermined and also determined by the amount of oil that your skin produces does not mean there aren't interventions that you can make your pores appear smaller. But before I get into those, I just want to debunk a couple of myths when it comes to pores, because if you don't understand these, you are not going to be able to pick out interventions that are actually worthwhile. First and foremost, your pores cannot open and close. You hear it all the time, like steam your skin to open up your pores or splash your face with cold water to close your pores. Pores do not work that way. They are not doors. There is no muscle around the pores that contracts and expands. They are what they are. Now, you certainly can soften the debris that sits inside of a pore to help it empty out, and steam can help with that, but it's not because it's actually opening up your pores. Another thing worth noting is that pore strips, so those little sticky things that you put on your skin and then you pull them off and you see all the gunk that comes out of your pores, those are not a long-term solution for your pores. The reason for that is they're just emptying them out temporarily, but immediately they're going to fill back in. So unless you're doing something to fundamentally change the integrity of your skin or to clear out those pores on a more regular basis, they're going to fill right back up. I'm also pretty cautious with pore strips because that trauma to the skin in theory could stretch the pore a little bit or damage the skin so that the pore doesn't want to contract back to its initial size. Another really important thing to understand when it comes to pores is realizing that some of the information out there about what is pore clogging is not accurate. And what I mean by that is there are certain ingredients that are marked as pore clogging or comedogenic, but what that doesn't take into account is the amount of that ingredient that's being used in a formula and the formulation of the product overall. Because you can have an ingredient that is traditionally pore clogging, but when you combine it with other things, it doesn't behave in that way. There are a number of online platforms that essentially are pore clogging databases where you can input the ingredients from your product and it can tell you if it has any comedogenic ingredients. But those are not super helpful because it doesn't tell you how those ingredients are interacting and if it's going to clog your pores. Now, if you're really prone to clogged pores, I'm not saying that those sites are bad, but they might be preventing you from using products that would be totally fine on your skin. There is truly no good way to know if a product will clog your pores until you use it on your unique break skin. Now that we've gotten those out of the way, let's talk about some things that we can actually do to reduce the appearance of the size of your pores. And a lot of this is going to have to do with cleaning out your pores and properly exfoliating your skin so that your pores don't continue to stretch out. First and foremost, you want to make sure that you are cleansing your skin regularly and properly. I would say most people would benefit from cleansing their skin once a day. You generally don't need to wash your face in the morning unless when you wake up in the morning, your skin is really oily. In that case, it can be nice to cleanse your skin to remove that excess oil, which is going to help the rest of your products in your morning routine sit on your skin better. And at night, when you're cleansing your face and essentially preparing it for the skin products that you're going to put on it, you want to match your cleanse to the degree of dirt or debris or makeup that's on your skin. So for me, if I have makeup on that day or I applied a water-resistant sunscreen, that always means I'm going to be doing a double cleanse. And a double cleanse is essentially going in with an oil-based cleanser first to help break down debris and makeup, rinsing that off, and then going in with a water-based or a gel cleanser to essentially remove anything else that's still sitting on the skin. Aside from cleansing your skin really well, you also want to make sure you are always protecting your skin from the sun. The reason for that is UV radiation breaks down all of the support structures in your skin. And if your skin weakens, the pores then are able to dilate and they're able to get more clogged. There's actually a condition in dermatology called Favre-Rochechot. Imagine I said that with the proper French accent, where people get these huge dilated pores, usually on the sides of their face right here where they have tons of sun damage. And although you need severe sun damage to develop that condition, it's like a magnification of what's happening at a much smaller level for most people as they accumulate sun damage over their lifetime. So you might not get to the point where you have huge dilated, clogged pores on your face, but on a smaller level, you might have just enlarged pores overall. And there are definitely treatments you can do in the office, which I'll get to at the end of the video, that you can do to repair some of that sun damage if you weren't great with your sun protection growing up. Now, if you feel like your pores are prone to clogging, sometimes finding the right sunscreen for you can be quite difficult, so I recommend checking out some of my videos. I love Korean sunscreens for people who find that traditional American sunscreens are pore clogging for them. And I also have a video about my favorite sunscreens for oily skin if you need some options there. Aside from sunscreen, some of the top products for managing the size of your pores are going to be exfoliating acids. Exfoliating acids fall into two main categories: alpha hydroxy acids and beta hydroxy acids. Alpha hydroxy acids you can think of as sort of like breaking the glue apart between your skin cells, so it's really good for dullness, but they can also get into the pore a bit and help clear them out. And then beta hydroxy acids, which is really just salicylic acid, are drawn to oils in the skin. They're what we call lipophilic, so they are even better at delving into the pores and breaking up some of the things that clog them. And I think people learn about beta hydroxy acids or salicylic acid and they think, oh, that's the only exfoliating acid that's going to be helpful for my pores, but actually a combination of beta and alpha hydroxy acids are going to be most beneficial. The key here is that when you're combining acids in your routine, you're not overdoing it and causing the skin to become sensitive or irritated. I would say the most gentle way to incorporate salicylic acid into your skincare routine is to use it in the form of a cleanser. So for example, Prequel, my skincare brand, we have something called the Cleanser, which is a super hydrating cleanser, but then we also have a form of it that has 1% salicylic acid for people who tend to have oilier skin or who are more prone to clogged pores. Now, if someone has oilier skin or their skin can handle something a bit more intense, using something like a 2% salicylic acid toner can be really helpful. For example, Paula's Choice is famous for their 2% salicylic acid, but lots of brands now have similar products. The way I instruct my patients to incorporate a salicylic acid toner into their routine is essentially after they cleanse their face, use either their palms or a cotton pad to gently kind of pat over the areas where they feel like their pores are clogged or enlarged. Wait a minute or two for it to dry down, and then just go in with the rest of their skincare. Some people may be able to tolerate an acid like that every single day, and some may be only able to use it a couple times a week. Now, aside from salicylic acid, I'm also a huge fan of using glycolic acid and lactic acid, so alpha hydroxy acids, to help exfoliate the pores as well. Now, even though these aren't going to be able to delve into the pore the way salicylic acid might be able to, glycolic acid and lactic acid are humectants, so they're going to draw water to the skin surface, which have a plumping effect. When your skin is plumper, it's a lot harder to see your pores. In addition to that, they also help slough off that outer dead skin cell layer and stimulate collagen production. And remember, when your skin is stronger, it's less likely to stretch out and those pores are less prone to dilation. I think Prequel's multi-acid milk peel is such a popular product because it helps so much with pores. This has 15% glycolic acid plus a blend of additional alpha hydroxy acids. And when we did our clinical studies on this multi-acid milk peel, when people were just using it 2 times a week for 4 weeks, 100% of the participants had a decrease in the size of their pores. And that study was conducted via photography, so it's not just people saying, oh, I think my pores are stronger. Like with clinical photography, their pores were measured to be smaller. If someone can't tolerate glycolic acid, because it is quite a powerful acid and may be irritating to some, other alpha hydroxy acids still have benefit in helping with your pores, like lactic acid or mandelic acid. Aside from these exfoliating acids, there are other ingredients in skincare that can really help with the appearance of pores. So for example, niacinamide, which 3 to 5 years ago when I was talking about niacinamide, people were like, what is that ingredient? And now I feel like everyone is familiar with it. Niacinamide is an antioxidant that has so many different benefits for the skin, but one thing it can do is help regulate oil production and strengthen your skin barrier. So when it comes to pores, things that have niacinamide in them tend to reduce the appearance. Because niacinamide is an antioxidant and it tends to play nice with other skincare ingredients, it's often incorporated into a lot of different skincare formulas, but if you want a niacinamide-only product, I highly recommend the one from Naturium. I think this is actually one of their best-selling products. It's their 12% niacinamide, which also has 2% zinc, and zinc is also great for pores. So for people who have really prominent pores, who have oily skin, having a distinct niacinamide step can be really helpful. And that would be something I would just layer on in the morning or in the evening before going in with my moisturizer or my sunscreen. And of course, we're not going to talk about pores without talking about the value of retinoids. Retinoids are things like retinol, retinaldehyde, prescription tretinoin, over-the-counter Differin gel or adapalene gel, and all of these are vitamin A-derived ingredients that help regulate cell turnover. When someone has acne, and particularly when they have something called comedonal acne, which is tons of little clogged pores essentially, retinoids are one of the first things we prescribe as dermatologists because they are so good at regulating cell turnover and exfoliating out those pores. They're also anti-inflammatory, and when you have low-grade inflammation in the skin, the pores can appear larger. Aside from their ability to normalize cell turnover and prevent pores from becoming clogged, retinoids are also really good because they're collagen stimulatory. So again, they are strengthening the skin and making the pore less prone to stretching out. If someone has clogged pores to the point where it's causing acne breakouts, I do recommend using a prescription tretinoin or an over-the-counter adapalene because both of those are approved for the treatment of acne. But if you just have some mild clogged pores and you want some anti-aging benefits, it's totally fine to use an over-the-counter retinol or retinaldehyde preparation. And then if you ever want like a really quick temporary fix for your pores, for example, you have a big event coming up or you want your makeup to go on super smoothly, using something like a clay mask, which really sucks the oil right out of your pores, can be great. I wouldn't do that on a regular basis because it can cause your skin to dry out or become irritated, but once in a while, totally appropriate. Now, sometimes, no matter how good you are with your at-home skincare, your pores may still appear somewhat enlarged or be prone to clogging. And that's where in-office treatments have a role. Regular facials, for example, can be really helpful for unclogging pores, especially if you're prone to ones that need true professional extraction. So a little squeeze at home doesn't get it out, bring in a professional. Enlarged or clogged pores are also where I find hydrofacials to be really beneficial. Hydrofacials is essentially like a medical grade facial. It's not relaxing at all, but it's really there to kind of help suck out some of the gunk that's stuck in your pores. Now, it does that in a very controlled and gentle way, and aside from using vacuum suction, it also uses some acids to help break down what's in your pores, but I really like hydrofacials on a regular basis to help with something like that if it bothers you. And as I alluded to a little bit earlier, if you just have tons of sun damage or genetically you have enlarged pores, using something like lasers that can deeply remodel the skin can improve your pore size. If we're talking mild lasers, something like Clear and Brilliant laser, which I use all the time to help refine the appearance of the pores for my patients, can be great, and it has basically no downtime. If you want to up that level a little bit, or if you have lots of sun damage, something like a Fraxel laser or a CO2 ablative laser can also help with the appearance of your pores. And again, these are working by strengthening your collagen, strengthening the skin overall to get the pores to shrink down a bit. You can do other types of resurfacing as well. So for example, microneedling or chemical peels, but the heat from a laser tends to work the best. Ultimately, you should never have the expectation that you're going to have zero visible pores or glass skin. That is simply not a thing. And yes, some people are genetically blessed with very tiny pores, but if that's not you, I don't think you should have the expectation that you're ever going to get to that point. So optimize the pores you have, but accept the pores that you cannot change. What products or treatments have helped you with your pores, if any? And if you've tried anything that has a ton of hype behind it and you loved it or you hated it, also let me know in the comments. If you're here, please give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, maybe share the video with a friend, and I'll catch you next time.